What's going on, YouTube? This is the LA Prepper, and today we're going to have a little bit of a chat about a type of bug out you probably haven't thought of. A lot of you probably don't know this, but I am kind of an aviation nut. In a past life, I was an Air Force ROTC cadet. I was very close to enlisting, very considered going to the academy before I realized that it was a little bit too structured of a life for me. Would have been a great chance to be a pilot. But recently I was speaking with a local airport about the possibility of commuting to work via plane. A lot of you might think, why on earth would you commute to work in a plane? Well, if I lived an hour away and I could afford a house an hour away, but I couldn't afford a house 10 minutes from work, commuting to work would be viable. Now, of course, there's costs involved, and this video isn't meant to be about how to commute to work. But just to let you know, the airport that I was looking at, the monthly tie-down cost is only $100 a month. That's, you could easily pay $100 a month for a parking spot in the city. So then you're talking about gas. Well, a plane like this plane is a Legal Eagle XL, I believe. It runs on a half a VW engine, so 2 cylinders. Burns about 2.5 gallons an hour. Sips gas. Ridiculous. So you could easily fly an hour, hour and a half for less than, $6. So of course you have to buy the plane and potentially make the plane. If you want to buy something like this, it might be about $20,000, but to make it yourself, somewhere about $10,000 for the standard method. That's purchasing the engine. If you want to kind of source your own engine and source a few of your own parts and take a few cost shortcuts, a little bit less. Of course, his avionics are going to cost a few $100s, so that's something as well. But you notice he's using his iPhone with the aviation map, so he's not, he doesn't have an expensive GPS going on with that. There's probably a maximum altitude that your phone will work, but I suspect he's not going above that. He's usually under 1,000 feet, 500 feet for most of his flights. Let's go ahead and fast forward to the takeoff here. I love watching his videos. I can't get enough, to be honest. Okay, so where is he? So he's airborne here. Airborne, airborne. All right. I'm a kid. Every time I'm on a plane and we take off, I think it's the neatest thing in the world. And this is a view I would love to have. And there he is. He's airborne. Doesn't take a lot with these ultralights. They weigh typically under 250 pounds. I think the FAA 103, Part 103 is, they have to weigh something like under 256, 255, somewhere around there to qualify as an ultralight. And when they're an ultralight, you're kind of on your own. You don't have to have a pilot's license. You don't have to have it certified. Like a number on your plane. You still have to follow the rules of the air, so to speak. Can't be a menace to other pilots and such, but you're basically free to kind of do what you want in the air. Fly around, fly high, fly low, turn left, turn right. You do need somewhere appropriate to land. But as we're watching this, we've got a few more minutes left. Let's talk about bugging out with an ultralight. The pros and cons. So let's start with the cons first. Does take a little bit of skill to fly a plane, but no one's born learning how to fly, just like no one's born knowing how to do calculus, which is what I always say. You can take classes at a variety of places. Now, the ultralight training is a little bit more specific, so it can be a little more challenging to find a pilot with a twin to train in an ultralight. In fact, back in the day, they didn't really do the tandem training for ultralights. They kind of gave you the ground training and then just kind of let you go. And you know, people would be on the instructors and trainers would be on the ground and kind of watch you and stuff. But it's a lot less formal back in the day. There are probably some ultralight training schools, but this video isn't really meant to talk too much about training. So let's just say that you need a certain amount of skill to be a pilot. Definitely a little more involved than driving a car. You know, you start landing in crosswinds and flying in inclement weather. Obviously, I don't think he's set up to do IFR flight. Although, to be honest, in an ultralight, I don't know what the requirements are, if there are even requirements regarding IFR being instrument flight rated when it's cloudy and you can't see out your nose. So flying in, he's probably flying VFR all the time, visual flight. I suspect flying IFR and ultralight without sufficient avionics would just be a very foolhardy move. So moving on to number 2, you need somewhere to land. Now, if we're talking bug out, then you're going to land anywhere you need to, on the road, in a field. A lot of these ultralights are perfectly capable, you know, of landing in any smoothish field, dirt road, back road. As long as it's flat for a few hundred feet, really not a problem. They fly about 55 miles an hour when they land, maybe just a little bit slower. So, you know, obviously you're not going to be trying to land in the middle of a forest, but you do need somewhere to land the plane, obviously. Number 3, you're going to have a limited cargo capacity with an ultralight. I think this one specifically is rated for a pilot of up to, gosh, I was just looking it up the other day. Let me see here. Just looking it up. Legal. Okay, where is... So the regular legal eagle is good to 225 pounds pilot. And that's not necessarily, you know, the plane's not going to work if you have a heavier pilot, but okay. 275 pound pilot. The seat is bigger, taller, and longer. Yeah, I need that because I'm a big, taller, longer guy. So 275 pounds. So if I weigh 180 pounds, 275 minus 180. So I could carry 95 pounds of cargo. That's not an ungodly amount of cargo, but it's definitely, you know, if you had to bug out, it's not an inconsequential amount of cargo. Of course, if carrying more cargo was something important to you, you could, you know, try to maybe have some supplies at your bug out location, or have some different caches in different directions. Or you could just, you know, be more of a survivalist and be less focused on supplies. At any rate, you do have limited cargo. There's a lot of different ultralights out there. You can get an ultralight with more weight capacity. You could get a tandem ultralight meant for 2 people, and then you could have, you know, 250 pounds of cargo, give or take. So, number 4, there is a little bit of a danger factor. Of course, the airframe itself is extremely strong. According to the website, Mulholland, the guy that designed it, tested the wing to 6 Gs. So that is an enormous amount of G-forces for a plane, especially an ultralight. Oh, are we coming in for a landing? Oh, I guess we are. Let's go. Let's back up a little bit so we can keep some footage while we're talking. So there, you know, there is a little bit of a danger factor. Ultralights are very, very safe in regards to small private aircraft in general. They fly very slow, very simple engines. If the engine fails, you know, as long as you have a little bit of altitude, you know, if his engine failed right here, he could land on any of these fields. You know, it really wouldn't be a big deal. Would the gear get damaged a little? Maybe. Would the prop get damaged? Maybe. But a qualified pilot can bring a plane down in a flat area like this without, you know, too much incident. There's plenty of videos on YouTube of pilots making emergency landings, and you know, generally speaking, they come out okay. The plane doesn't always come out okay, but the pilots come out okay. You might recall Harrison Ford a while ago landed his plane on a golf course, I guess he had some engine problems or something, and he had to put it down on a golf course. Not a perfect spot to land a plane, but not the worst spot in the world. And Harrison Ford's been flying for quite a long time, so I suspect he's practiced dead stick landings, power off landings. It's kind of the same thing. And so there is a danger factor. You are in the air. Probably not going to be breaking a wing or breaking a control surface cable with the forces that you're exerting on an ultralight. Your most common issue is going to be an engine failure, possibly some inclement weather. You want to fly in better weather conditions, but God forbid a storm comes in and you weren't expecting it. You're getting crazy downdrafts, updrafts, crosswinds. If you have a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind, if you have a 5-mile-an-hour crosswind when you take off and a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind when you land, that's a little sketchy. You might start wanting to land diagonally across the runway and just say, look, tell the tower, I'm going to land diagonally right now. I'm going to land on the taxiway because I don't think I can land, a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind. And a lot of the airports you're going to land don't even have, I obviously don't recommend landing on a taxiway in general, but it's a difference. If it's life and death and you don't think you're going to put it down, crabbing or slipping, 30-mile-an-hour crosswind, that's... I leave it up to you, the pilot, to decide how to put it down safely. Putting it down safely is key. If you run afoul of a few pilots because you're landing all cockeyed, that's one thing, but better than flipping the plane and hurting yourself, in my opinion. Number 5 is the weather. Obviously, if it's raining and pouring and thunderstorming when you're trying to bugging out on an ultralight is not going to be your best option. I live in sunny California. It's almost always sunny and gorgeous outside. Yeah, we do have some wind. Wind is a big issue, especially for ultralights. But believe it or not, his ultralight, and I don't know if there's a lot of video of... let me get some video of the frame. But his ultralight doesn't have a lot of skin on the back. It's a very... In fact, that was kind of a better... But you'll notice the rear of the frame... It's not covered. It's completely open. Now, granted... Oh, sorry. It's a little bit better. So, granted, that does increase the wind resistance a little bit, but these things fly so low and slow, that it's not, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And one thing that's really interesting about having a non-covered tail part of the fuselage here is that it actually gives you very good crosswind handling because... the wing is flat. You're going to get a little bit of crosswind just from the wing, a little bit effect on the rudder, but the wind can basically kind of blow through the frame and not... If this was covered in a crosswind, you'd get a lot more response from the wind. So, God, doesn't that just look like a blast? I mean, look at him. He's in his t-shirt, and I don't know if those shorts, I think long pants, but long pants, a t-shirt, just hanging out. And it's a 4-stroke, so it's kind of nice and quiet. It's, most of the ultralights run on 2-stroke engines, so they're, zzz, it's like having a weed whacker or a chainsaw in front of you. They're kind of loud and obnoxious. That's one of the reasons I'm really interested in this Legal Eagle, because it works with this half a VW engine. I've worked on VW engines. They're super, super easy to work on. I used to have a sandrail. So I really like the idea of a 4-stroke engine. Burns regular auto fuel. Although I have to admit, I don't know if airports are less likely to have auto fuel than airplane fuel. Of course they're going to have, airplane fuel and jet fuel. Not the small ones don't have jet fuel, but I wonder if they have automobile fuel, because I know not a lot of planes run on automobile fuel. So that would be something I need to look into. And I guess another con is that you do kind of have to, the initial cost. You have to either buy an ultralight or build an ultralight. But you can get an ultralight that flies from around $5,000. Now that's going to be an older one. They run anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. But you can also get kit. The cheapest way to go is probably to build it yourself, although... Since there's a depreciation from buying materials new, I would almost say the cheapest way to go is to buy a kit that is partially built. So the person's already bought a lot of materials, the kit's halfway together, and because not a lot of people want to deal with a kit that's halfway together, you can kind of get a better deal. So let's go to, what is it, Barnstormers, I think. Yeah, Barnstormers. So you can go look at used ultralight. So example, Bobcat Ultralight, project for sale, partially built kit. Ailerons I did not get, have the plans well, excellent woodwork. I hate guys that don't have pictures. Quicksilver MX 1500, gotta go, 2-axis control, steerable nose wheel, band brakes, very clean, strong, Rotax 377, 3-blade composite prop, instrument pod on the front, tachometer, ASI, altitude, CHT. I don't even know what these things are. I'm embarrassed. ASI gauge, flying. Airspeed, oh my gosh, airspeed indicator. It's embarrassing. Cylinder head temperature. Okay, so engine temperature, give or take. Clean, no corrosion, blah, blah, blah. So you could, if you wanted to, buy a partially put together. I guess he's got it covered, although the covering looks a little shaky, to be honest. But, you know, the engine, the frame's all put together. He just kind of got a few remaining parts. So 1500, I mean, that's... I have to admit, I'm more of a fan of the 3-axis control. So the Quicksilver MX2 has elevator and ailerons, but no... Well, excuse me. No rudder, I believe? Anyways. Back to our friend Les Hoffman here. By the way, his channel, Les Hoffman, LES, or Les Homan? I always thought it was Les Hoffman. Has it been Les Homan the whole time? Oh my god, that's really funny. One of those things where you think you remember it a certain way. I always thought it was Les Hoffman. Weird. That's funny. So, number 6, cost and or build. Let's move on to the pros. Well... flexibility. I mean, if we are talking bug out or even evacuation, this country is littered with small airports, and with a range of several hundred miles, you really don't have to be that worried about where you want to bug out. You want to bug out north, south, east, west, any combination thereof. There's going to be a little landing strip for you to land on. And if it is a real shit hits the fan EMP something something situation, speaking of which, I don't think there's any electronics on here that would be affected by an EMP. In fact, that's definitely another pro, EMP resistance. But you're really going to have a lot of options, even though I did list needing a landing strip as a con. Like, look at this area, this little access road on the side of this farm. You could land there, you could land on this road, you know. And if you're in kind of a crappy situation and someone gets upset about you landing on their land, just say, look, I'll take off, I'll fly somewhere else if you want me to, but if you want to kind of work with me, I'd be more than happy to surveil the area, you know, once a week, once a month, whatever. If you can help me out with a little bit of gas, and I'll feed that information to you, and you can use that information as a valuable tool to your neighbors for security, for scouting. There's all sorts of reasons that being able to get some aerial surveillance could be valuable. So it could be a real beneficial tool to become a valuable member of the community if you have a little ultralight. Maybe somebody, you know, maybe you're talking with somebody on the ham radio and they desperately need a medication, or they need some medical supplies, or they need someone with medical training, or they need a part for their generator and it's cold and they're going to freeze to death if they don't get this part. You fly them up a spark plug, I guarantee you're going to have a friend for life, you know. Say that you'll fly them up and they're going to fill you up with gas and maybe give you, you know, an extra 10 gallons for the way back. And, you know, the cost to run this, other than maintenance, is essentially gas. When you're an ultralight, there's not requirements on builds and certifications and inspections. You know, having a legal light sport or a small aircraft, there's just so many laws and rules and regulations, just enough to make your head spin. So the ongoing cost of running one of these is really very, very low. And as far as building it, I was watching a video last night on the guy was talking about budget methods, and he said, you know, the labor doesn't pay anything, but neither does watching TV. So you can either spend your free time watching TV or you can build an airplane. And I thought, you know, that's a really good way of looking at it. All right, number 2 on the pros, traffic avoidance. Let's look at some traffic. And just in case Google Maps wants to share where I live, let's get a little privacy for a moment, and let's look at traffic. We're about 7:15 now. We should be kind of going into the morning suck in Los Angeles. All right. So it's 7 in the morning, and somehow an EMP strikes, and you live, you know, somewhere around here. As soon as the EMP strikes, well, I guess most people wouldn't be in their cars. In fact, ironically, an EMP is one of the shit hit the fan scenarios when there probably won't be a lot of traffic. So let's say there's a flood, or, you know, the Chinese have landed, something. You got to get the hell out of Dodge. Well, the only problem is 9 million people in LA want to get the hell out of Dodge too. And you might look in here and say, well, that's a lot of freeways, not a big deal. But you start zooming out a little bit, we have 1, 2, 3 freeways to the northeast, 101, 5, and the 14. So you got 3 options up there. Up here to the northwest. To the northeast we have 15. We have 1 option. 1 main option. I guess you could throw in 18 too. And 138. So maybe 3 options. Out to the east we have basically 1 main option. I mean, I guess 62 kind of counts, but it's going to be Highway 10. And then to the south we have 2 options. We have 15 and we have the 5. So, you know, 2 to the south, kind of 2 to the east, including 40, I suppose, 1 to the northeast, and 3 to the northwest. For 9 million people. So let's see, 9 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you know, kind of like a million people on each freeway. That's a lot of people. But you take your little car down to the airport, you jump in your plane. Let's find a little regional airport here. There's LA International. We're not going to go out of LA. But let's see, Los Angeles Municipal, I don't even know, Municipal Airport. I don't think that's the name of an airport, but let's see what kind of little airports. Okay, so we have Hawthorne, Santa Monica, Fullerton. Let's pick Fullerton, for example. So your plane is parked at Fullerton Municipal Airport. You head on down there, jump in your plane, and it's no problem for you to fly over to, let's pick an airport. How about Bakersfield? Bakersfield Municipal Airport. Here we go. Bakersfield Municipal Airport. Not a problem. So let's see how many miles that is. Directions. Fullerton Airport. Okay, so by car, it's about 2 hours and 34 minutes. It's 130 miles. I don't think the plane route, okay, flight's not available, but that's okay. 130 miles. We're going about 55 miles an hour. So yeah, you know, about 2.5 hours. It's about the same distance, but the thing is, if there's a million people on the road, and it could be more than a million. If we have a bunch of problems in the south part of LA, everyone might not distribute equally in a shit hits the fan. You know, if everyone's going north, or if everyone's going east, or everyone's going south, because of something that's going on, you know, you might have a lot more traffic than normal. So the ability to just jump in a plane and fly above all that is going to be very, very valuable. Pro number 3, planes are fun. You know, why spend time and money on energy on bug out things when you're not going to be able to use them for your own enjoyment? You know, it's one thing to have a bug out cabin in the woods, and that might be a good spot for a bug out cabin. But if you never go there and you never visit there, and shit hits the fan never happens, how much enjoyment are you getting out of that investment? I'm not to say don't invest in bug out land, but it would be nice if you can kind of make some of your outdoor stuff relating to prepping fun. You know, like I want to go hunting, not just to put food on the table, but because I like the idea of the sport of hunting. I want to build an ultralight, not because I mainly am trying to bug out via plane, but because flying is fun. And heaven forbid there's grid down or something's going on, I guarantee you I could find a way to turn a buck with a plane like that. I mean, if I had an electric bicycle, solar panels, a windsurf Moran, and an airplane, I could get around on land, I could get around on sea, and I could get around in the air, all with no power. Granted, I need gas for this, but sailboats don't need gas. I got solar panels for the electric bicycle, and I'll just trade people gas, you know, as long as the gas is good. Granted, the gas isn't going to last forever. That's kind of a big deal. You know, maybe I would try to convert it to run on diesel or something if I was really trying to be shit hits the fan proof with the plane. I would convert it to diesel and make my own biofuel. Now, making biofuel is kind of a huge undertaking, but not impossible. Not impossible. Vegetable oil lasts a while, so just putting it out there. Number 4, they are relatively affordable. You know, people go out and buy $20,000 Jeeps, and then they look at a $10,000 plane or a $15,000 plane and say, wow, that's a lot of money for a plane. But you just spent $20,000 or $40,000 on a brand new Jeep Cherokee. So, you know, can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. Or you spent $100,000 on some bug out land. Or you spent $100,000 on a brand new motor coach. You know, people have money to spend in regards to prepping and bugging out. So don't let, you know, yes, $10,000 to build your own plane or $15,000 for a plane is expensive, but like I said, there are options. Air bike, $5,000. Paraplane, that's like the trike with a parachute on top, $1,500. Tubing RW2 project, $500. Wow, that's pretty cheap. When they say project, he means ribs, spars, fuselage sides, and I guess the plans. Coyote, $5,900 for sale to a good home. Flying is part 103, but it was N-numbered recently, so it's possible to get it registered as an experimental light sport aircraft. $2,000 for the BRS, that's a parachute system. Spare Rotax, wow. So here we have a little plane. Cute little plane. Yeah, look at that guy. That's a cool little plane. That's a little ghetto airspeed indicator right there. There's your little parachute system. Yes, the plane can actually parachute to the ground. God forbid you break a wing or do something really... You know, it's not for the engine dying. If the engine dies, you fly to the ground. Unless you're over the forest and you just really can't land. The only other thing that would make you want to land is if you broke a wing, if, you know, your elevator broke off and you lost pitch control, or maybe if the engine, God forbid the engine fell off and you were so unbalanced you couldn't fly it. I think with the engine off, you might not have enough weight in the front to land because the plane would just want to keep nosing up. So, yeah, look at that. What a gorgeous plane. Now that, I believe, is a 2-stroke and probably loud as heck, but... There's your parachute system. There's your little coordinated turn gauge. I've only flown a small plane a couple times, but God, I was hooked, you know, and there's so many reasons I want a full-time job, not the least of which is so I can afford to have an airplane. God, this is really tempting. I might need to copy and paste this into a Word ad or something, or a Word document or something. Anyways, so let's try to wrap this video up. I know we're getting kind of long here. Back to Les Holman and our Legal. God, I love this guy's footage. Every time he does a video, I write, hey, awesome video, please make more videos. And he messes around with like the GoPro camera. He tries different cameras. He's just messing around, having fun, flying his little plane. I mean, what could be more enjoyable than, you know, spending $6-10 and going up for a flight for an hour? You know, no hassle, no stress, nobody at the TSA molesting you. Don't have to worry about hijackers, right? Nobody with a box knife is going to come, you know, hijack his plane. So, God, just a gorgeous way to see the country. Number 5, they're very easy to operate. Once you kind of get your flying skills down, it's easy to work on all this stuff. Easy to make frame repairs, easy to work on the engine, you know, the gauges. Takes regular auto fuel. They're very, very simple plane to fly. No flaps, no landing gear no landing gear controls. Just ailerons, rudder, and elevators, and a throttle, and that's it. The carb heat, I believe, is sort of full time because I think the oil cooler goes around the carb, so you kind of have full time carb heat. Carb heat being, you know, if it gets cold to kind of prevent the icing, but I don't think he's going up on icy days. I've seen him go up when it's cold with jacket and such, but they're very easy to operate as a machine goes. You could spend more time getting your damn chainsaw or ATV running than you would keeping this guy running. These things just run forever. If any of you have ever owned a VW, you know those things always start. They don't have the most power in the world, but they always start. EMP resistant, talked about that. Aerial surveillance, you know, ways to make money, ways to barter. You could definitely do some bartering. In general, I think they're really overlooked. Sorry, just noise outside. Make sure someone isn't banging on my door. I think they're a really overlooked vehicle. I think they're an overlooked pastime. I think you could really... There's a lot of potential with ultralights. They're very affordable. They're very easy to operate. And, you know, I think you should kind of think about it. If you have any interest in flying, I think there's a lot of potential there. Until next time, YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, keep prepping, and let's make sure he gets in nice and safely here, because if you're like me, you want to see the takeoff and the landing. Little bounce, and he's safely on the ground. See you next time, YouTube. Take care.